Welcome back, patrons. Thanks for supporting me. Thank you for following me, and thank you for watching this. This is the video to the bird cage light that I made and the pole chain switch. And what you're seeing here is I'm cutting out squares out of some sheet metal. I ultimately ended up choosing to go with more cylinder shape. You'll see I cut it out, and then at the time, I mark it with a piece of wood. I draw a circle on it and cut it out. I could have done it here, but I wasn't totally decided at this point. And this gave me center lines to work off of too, so which was nice. So here you'll see me, I punch the hole. That's a center punch, an auto punch. I use that all the time. I've got a regular punch set, and you see me just screw into the counter, to the work surface. I do it all the time. Ultimately, I'll just replace the work surfaces in the long run. But here's the die grinder, the DeWalt die grinder. It's very long, but it's a great tool. I love this tool. As long as you can get in there, it's a really good tool. My Harbor Freight disc sander. You guys see this a lot. It's used a lot. And you see I put tape on the sheet metal so that way I can drill it with this Unibit. This is a Cobalt Irwin Unibit. It's a very good tool. A lot of tools are coming up. Here's a knockout set. I use 2 foundation washers, M20 foundation washers, to press the knockout set in, because I don't have a gun, but I have a few sets of the dies, and it just makes a perfect circle. It's nice. These are a few of the rods that I cut out. I cut more than this out. This is what's in between the light, the base of the light. This is what I gave it like a skeletal look with. You'll see at the end of the video. And of course, this is my little Harbor Freight sander. I use that to clean up the metal. And this is a brand new tool that you're gonna see a few times in here. I love 90-degree angle grinders with a sanding pad. And ultimately, this video is part of the Make What You Fear contest. And my Make What I Fear is welding, so I chose welding. I am just at the very beginning of learning how to weld in this situation. And you can see I jumped angles, and I usually use a ball peen hammer. Here that's a little Husky hammer I've had laying around. That was one of the first tools I brought back to life. I found that in the grass, rusted out, and I brought it back to life by sanding it. It was one of the first things I hand mirror polished. It's not mirror polished anymore though, obviously. Just the sides were mirror polished. And you guys that don't know, Masterforce makes a welding table. If you don't have a lot of money, it's affordable, and you can buy a few things for it. There's the trick again. This is for the inside and the outside of the light, and ultimately I marked 60-degree angles on the circle. That way I knew where to drill, because I'm going to reuse it in 2 different ways. One, I'm going to use it to press rods through it. I'm going to use it to drill holes through it, and actually one more way. I use it to create like a frame. That way when I weld on the rods that go around the outside, I'm able to control it a little bit better. I had a real learning experience with the rod steel. When you weld rod steel, it tends to flex and move in a direction that you might not expect, you know. So it was an interesting thing to learn. So here's that trick that I was saying, where I'm using it to just transfer the holes, and then I'm gonna break them loose. Here comes the rods. So I place the rods in. Very, very cool. Just to save me some time, save me some effort, because this was very, very hard to keep straight. Here's a trick. You don't always have to make like a bending jig. You can sometimes just throw 2 dowels in a vise and just work it slowly. I mean, my tolerances are probably, you know, there's an uncertainty of like probably half an inch, I guess, you know, but I'm not too worried about it. I thought it came out pretty good in the long run. And you can see I do a tack weld on the bottom and the top. Some of them I went on the inside. The ones that I went on the inside with were the ones that I had the most flexing with, so I ended up ultimately stopped doing that. You can see there I'm doing the inside corners, and they flexed a lot. Ultimately, that's the end that I bent. The ones that flexed are the ends that I bent down, which you'll see in a little bit. I create like a bottom triangular shape. And there's the cutting wheel again one more time. And there's the die grinder one more time. But this is for me, like I said, you know, I might not have been perfect on every sand. You know, I can always go back and do a little bit more. I got one glove on because I knew I was going to be bending it. And what I did was I married two of them together first, cut it, rub them together, and you'll see I'm going to go through all the other ones and bend them slowly, put them in place. And as I cut, that was the first one I cut straight down. I learned that I had to grind it straight, more at an angle. That way I can taper it, and you'll see me start to approach it in a better way as time goes on. And I'm just tacking it. I'm gonna hit it with the grinder one more time because I just wanted to get it together because it was kind of moving around a lot. It was hard to control 4 of them. I didn't want to put all 6 together at once. So if you look in the background, that's a heater that I installed. That way there's the angle adjustment. That's a heater I installed just so that way I can do videos here through the winter. It's been a really good heater. I got it up to 60 degrees in there one day when it was 20 degrees outside. Very, very, very efficient. Very glad I got it. Now here you're going to see me do the star formation. I'm just going to go around each edge that I didn't get to, and I just tack weld a little bit more, and I smooth it all out. That tool is really, really cool. If you guys haven't got one of those, you should get one. Now I'm starting the switch. In the background though, you'll see that I just picked up a lathe right before the video started. That's a Craftsman lathe. It's like 4 foot long. It'll do 38-inch spindle and like 15-inch bowl. And I've got a set there of gouges. Very, very cool. But on my swivel vise, you can see I'm just pushing it around, getting the angles that I need. And I shot up just because I didn't want to move the camera around. Usually I don't shoot up. I would usually flip it, but I'm okay. I didn't start no fire, so. And then here's a speed round of me grinding. And you'll see I do a swiping and rolling action here, right here. That is my way of rounding an edge around a thing. I typically do all corners and then do that swiping action. And here you see the lever. This is just basic box tubing. I think it was 1 inch maybe. 1 inch box tubing. And I'm just drilling it, getting ready for the chain. I put the chain in, and now I'm onto the J-box. The J-box was pretty much my idea. When I first started this, I was like, okay, I need to put the button here. So that's what I thought of. But then I was like, oh, I can offset the flaps of this thing, of this lever, and just have it hang off. I don't have to have it all the way on the box. That'll give me enough room to make the lever as long as I want. And this is a scene that I actually kind of messed up because you see my hand cross over the top. I still left it in because I wanted the audio of me punching through. And this is obviously my hinge system. I'm going to drill through the rod, place the hinge through it, and weld it on. And here you can see, I like to leave a little fluff into the video. So this is me just kind of tinkering with it, making sure it works good, showing it off. And it's a little bit of fluff, but sometimes I like that. And this was easier to weld than all the birdcage, even though my weld looks super heavy, obviously. Like I said, I'm still learning and getting better and better every time I do it. And I keep testing in between, making sure it works still. So this spring basically was the idea I originally had. I knew I might be wrong when I set it up there, and I actually ended up adding more spring deeper inside. And that spring ultimately holds like a dowel. That way it offsets the switch, and I'm able to press it. Another trouble that I knew I would possibly run into, I built this very, very quickly over one weekend. And there I am testing it out and transferring the holes. And of course I'm going to ground it, because if something were to short out to the switch, I would be the ground. So that's a cord grip that I'm putting on it. That way it'll hold the wires really good. Just testing the fit, making sure everything looks good. And this is me. I crawled up towards the roof, and there's like a little reach around up there. I had hung that board. Those are just 2 carriage bolts. They hold it really nicely. I like it a lot. And you'll see ultimately I secured it even more. And as I said, it like hangs off a little bit, so you can see that the switch is gonna hang off. There's the light. I definitely like how it looked when it going up. I thought about doing chain, and then after seeing it, I was like, I'm fine with it. I think it looks really good, just with the pendant style. Little bit of wiring. I didn't show all of it because wiring can be boring. I thought that was cool how the switch just flips down like that, and I'm able to still work on it. And I'm just putting the screws into the J-box, finally closing it up. Those J-boxes are really, really neat for wiring instances. And I saw that it was flexing. You'll see in a second. I put the chain on, and I came back and I drilled 2 holes and put studs in and brace that a little bit better. That way when it pulls, it actually has a lot more strength to it. And there's the cage light. The cage is really, really good. I like the cage a lot. It's removable. It's got little grommets. And there's the cool action. That's what inspired me the whole time, was that action. Came out really, really good. I'm really happy with it. And the light is super cool. And my mom's actually one of the ones that pushed for the cage. She was the one that was telling me you should cover the light. But thank you, patrons. I appreciate it. Love and respect. Thank you for the support.